back to Truth Be Told. I'm Max, this is Dwight, and today we're going to see where this conversation goes.
Thanks, Max. I was thinking in regard to when I was a young pastor, and one of the tendencies that I had as a young pastor was thinking that in every message I had to share all of the truth that I knew. And
The whole bale.
What's that?
The whole bale.
yeah, the whole bale, and not only a small bale, but a big bale, right? And thank God for the patience of some people with me during that journey, and now at All the Nations, I'll come to the end of something. I'll say, yeah, that's good enough for now, and we'll shut it down here. But sometimes I used to think that if I don't share all of that now, somebody's going to take part of this and say, well, he doesn't believe this, or that's not in the scriptures, or do something with that. And as I've grown older, hopefully matured a little bit, the fact of saying, you know what, there's another message coming. We can, it's like our last Truth Be Told here. We talked about peace. And when we're talking about that, we're not going to give all of the truth that's in there. We talked later with Kelsey, we talked about this perfect peace that God gives. How many times God speaks about that, the fact that this peace of God.
Yeah.
And we have this peace with God, but we have this peace of God that passes all understanding. But this peace of God, we think about that, and the fact that God, to take this a little out and use human lingo on it, but God didn't wake up this morning. We know that God doesn't sleep, but God didn't wake up this morning and go, oh yeah, I never thought about what Trudeau was going to do in Ottawa yesterday. And no, no matter what happens in the world scene, the peace of God, God's peace is never moved, and that's the peace that He's, the peace of God that we can have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because back when, since the beginning of time, we think our situation sucks today.
Right.
But there's been far worse situations, and there is far worse situations even today.
Oh, absolutely.
In places that, people do evil things.
Yeah.
So, but God is still sovereign over that.
Yeah, I chuckle when I hear you saying that, because we get caught up in North America with all of the things that we see and so on, and my girls will remind me, that's a first world problem, and that's a first world. We're thinking in that context, but when you begin to look at you look at history, and you follow it through in people's lives, and you just see that, whether it's going back to biblical history, we go back into Abraham, and and we see them too struggling with that piece. Abraham, God said, I'm going to look after you. And a famine comes into the land, and Abraham kind of goes, oh no, I don't know what I'm going to do now. God can't look after me in the famine. And so he goes down into Egypt, and he lies about his wife down there, and thinking that the worst is going to happen, instead of having peace with God and the peace of God. And so he, and you follow that through there in those circumstances that we're living in. Joseph, he gets sold into slavery. And, he goes, oh man, this is the worst. But out of the worst, and at the end of it, Joseph's brothers come to him and they say to him, yeah, before Dad died, he said that, you should forgive us. And Joseph is saying, you really don't know me that.
Yeah.
And he says to them, he said, you meant it for evil. What happened in my life, you meant it for evil. But God, who is sovereign, He meant it for good, for the saving of many people alive as it is today.
Exactly. And I think that's the part that we don't see. We don't see the whole part, the whole picture. God sees the whole picture.
Absolutely.
Joseph, that's one of my favorite stories, but being in that situation where there's zero way to get out of it. And I think if even people today in situations where they can't get out of it, God can still bring good out of that. He developed Joseph. He developed so many people, but Joseph is just one of the examples where He developed him through that for the saving of many people. He didn't see it at the time. Maybe he did to some extent, or maybe he did at some point. But I know at some point early on, he probably did not see that, because we all fall into that because we can't see the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. There's I don't know if it's a Chinese proverb or what it is, but when somebody says it's good or bad, something is good or bad, we easily jump to those conclusions. Yeah. But I really like it because it's like, we don't know that. We don't know if it's good or bad yet. It might appear so, but we really don't know what God's plan is through that. We have to be in tune with Him through that, because that's also our walk with Him.
Yeah, I think that's kind of neat. I thought of two thoughts while you were doing that, and one of them is Romans chapter 8, and it says, "For all things work together for good."
Yeah.
It doesn't say all things are good, but all things work together for good to them that love God and are called according to His purpose. And so they're working together for good, whether we can see that at the time. But the other thought that I had was kind of watching Joseph and going back to your this is good, this is bad. And so Joseph gets this dream from God, actually gets two dreams from God, and he can't hold them. So he tells his brother, and the brothers are jealous. And he gets these dreams, and he goes, "Oh, that's good." Mm-hmm. And so he tells us the second one, "That's good." And his dad kind of says, "Yeah, maybe you shouldn't be sharing this so much." And then his brothers are envious of him. And he gets this coat of many colors, which shows that he's favored. And we go, "Oh, that's good." He goes, "Oh, that's good." And well, maybe not so good. And then he goes to his brothers, and they put him into a pit, and we go, "Oh, that's bad." They threaten to kill him. "Oh, that's bad." We don't know that. He gets sold to the Midianites, and we go, "Oh, that's bad." He goes down and sold to Potiphar, and we go, "Oh, that's bad." And Potiphar's wife tries to seduce him. He rejects it. He leaves his coat, and he goes, "Oh, that's bad." And so we can do that whole in our own lives if we stop and reflect on that. We can see the whole part of, we don't see the whole picture, but we can see that God is at work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I in the midst of that, that's the challenge, I think, for myself anyway, is recognizing in the midst of that, instead of asking the question, why,
right?
What is God? What is God's purpose in this?
Yeah.
And then asking Him for the shoes to walk through that with me.
Yeah. And I heard someone that was wise and profound, someone asked them when they were going through difficulty, and they said, "Do you ask why me?" Mm. And the person responded and said, "Why not me?" Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what a different mindset change, what a mind changer that is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's and I think that's beginning our walk, following Jesus. We're a new creation in Him. Old things are passing away. That's a process of refinement, and I think we don't like that process. But it's like anything. You have to be refined. You have to work on it. You have to go through tension, if you will, to become stronger. You have to go through things in the same way to become closer and more for the character of Jesus to become part of you.
Absolutely. And that therefore, if anyone is in Christ, if I'm a follower of Christ, I come in and I'm in this relationship with Him. I receive Him. John 1:12 talks about that. But as many as received Him, to them gave He power to become the children of God. And so I'm not only a follower now, I'm a child of God, and I'm becoming like Jesus.
Yeah. And once I think that's more of it's a heavenly mindset versus a worldly mindset, is recognizing that hope, but also that's having that peace, that perfect peace in the midst of that, to live that way. Because I think if you recognize those things and you can live that way, that's evidence to other people. That peace, it becomes part of you. His peace becomes part of us, and it's a fruit of the Spirit. So that's an evidence to others without preaching to them.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
You
And
don't have to
that's-
preach with words.
And that goes back to that whole question or that whole statement that Kelsey made. That being ready, always give a reason for the answer of the hope. And so somebody's going to ask you,
Oh yeah.
Max, why are you different? They may have been watching your past life and they see a change. I think of Andre. Andre's been watching your life, and he made a statement to me. He said, you know what? He said, whatever Max has, he said, that's what I want because I've been watching this change in him. And that whole process of becoming a new creature, but and people are asking, okay, what makes you different? What makes you react to adverse circumstances different? Why can you have peace? So as they're watching that, they're looking, and then you've got to say, okay, this is the answer. I got to go back to here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all Him. It's not me.
Yeah,
It's Him through me.
exactly. And that part where, therefore, if any man be in Christ, in it,
Yeah.
old things are passing away.
Yeah.
And you look at your life and you can see the stuff that you held tenaciously to before that gave you satisfaction. And now all things are becoming new. And so that's this whole thing of following Jesus is not about perfection.
No. And there's no end goal. It's just, it's following. It's walking. There's motion and movement forward.
Yeah.
But there's never an end point.
Yep. Although I would say, truth be told, that there's an end point.
Yeah, there is.
Because the end point, when we shall see him,
We shall be like Him.
and we shall see him. And so God is at this process, and I remember
Yeah.
talking with Diane, and she was concerned about this perfection thing, and I said, no, it's not perfection. It's progression and a process that God is doing within us to make us like Jesus. As we're following Jesus, truth be told, He's making us like Jesus. We may not see that as much.
Yeah.
As somebody else is watching us. And so then they ask the question, what makes you different?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Truth be told.
Truth Truth be told. And thanks for joining us. Peace be with you, and God bless.